and leading the college Republicans. I do have one point of clarification here. Aaron said this is Todd Young's town hall meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your town hall meeting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've met many folks here before. I've been at this for about 20 months now. Have really enjoyed making new friends, reconnecting with some older friends, and deepening some relationships that I'd already established months before we began this campaign. And I do, however, see some fresh faces out in the audience. So let me tell you a bit about myself, what this race is all about, and then we'll begin after I provide some brief remarks here. We'll begin getting into questions, because I really enjoy hearing from all of you. That's what this is all about, is to get some feedback about your concerns, your even fears during this very difficult time for our nation, and maybe your vision for the future. I'm here not just to share my heart and share some of my ideas and perhaps clarify some positions for you, but I'm also here to learn. There hasn't been a town hall meeting that I've had. There hasn't really been many meetings that I've had over the months where I haven't learned at least a little something. Learned a little bit about a town that I didn't know much about here in Perry County just moments ago. So if anyone has the opportunity to visit Magnet in Perry County, it's lovely, populated by lovely people like those with us tonight. So I really appreciate especially those who have traveled from some distance to come to meetings like this. It's a recurring trend. We've seen this over recent months, and I hope people continue to travel. They need an outlet. They need an outlet to ask questions, to share their input, because frankly, people aren't getting it from their member of Congress. That's one of my chief criticisms of Mr. Hill, and one of my chief motivations for running here is to provide some better leadership. Now, leadership's important to me. It's something that was really emphasized in my family. I got great parents, ladies and gentlemen. I grew up in a household where my father's a small businessman, a salesman. He travels around this state in his car to this day, and he sells HVAC equipment. Not real exciting stuff. It's hard work. But he's eked out a decent living for his children, and more importantly, instilled in me an ethic of hard work that I'd like to take with me to Washington. My mother, registered nurse. My mother was also a hard-working person, remains so to this day. But I think what I got from my mother in terms of inspiration and instilling certain values was this ethic of service, of serving a cause greater than yourself. It was my mother who was more involved in the community and would emphasize to her children that it was important for my brother, my sister, and myself to serve causes greater than just me. And it was because of that upbringing, the hard work, and that sense of service, that I decided to join the Navy out of high school. Do we have any former military people here, perhaps current military? Let's give them a round of applause here. Thank you for your service. You embody what has made this country so great. Stepping forward and making a difference and giving something back. And by being here tonight, we're sort of honoring that tradition. You're actively involved in the political process, which is how we choose our leadership and how we determine the direction of this country. Well, ladies and gentlemen, service is important to me. After spending a year in the Navy, as an enlisted man, I had an opportunity to go to the U.S. Naval Academy. Spent 4 years at the Naval Academy, graduated in 1995, and I chose Marine option. So Nick McIntosh back there, sporting the USMC cap, fellow Devil Dog, and I take a lot of pride in being a Marine as well, Nick. One of the reasons I chose the Marines as a service, and they're all great services, is I really like the hands-on leadership emphasis. Occasionally like rolling around in the dirt too, or did when I was a bit younger. So, but that was a great experience, spending 5 years active duty in the Marine Corps. I worked with unmanned aerial vehicles in the Marines. Some of you are familiar with these things. You see them on the news from time to time. We're actually actively deploying UAVs in various theaters around the world. We use them in Iraq, we use them in Afghanistan. We're even using them along our southern border to help monitor the border situation there, and goodness does it need monitoring. Left the Marines after my 5-year active duty term had expired. Very proud of my service again, but pretty certain that starting a family and spending an entire career in the military were difficult things to balance. I always admire people who do that, but that didn't seem to be the direction my life was headed. Finished a MBA, which I had actually started when I was in the military, from the University of Chicago as I left the military. Now I bring that up, my graduate education studying business, because my focus in that Master of Business Administration program was economics. And if there's one discipline right now that I think members of Congress should have some familiarity with, it's economics. Amen. So I took that skill set and went to Washington for a couple of years. I've a long time had an interest in public policy and less so politics. Politics is sort of what you have to do in order to be able to serve your country in a public capacity. But good public policy, good ethical government is something that is a passion for me. So I had 2 years where I was a policy advisor on Capitol Hill. Now the issues I handled, I advised Senator Lugar. I handled economic issues primarily, also some energy issues. Now again, that experience certainly would allow me to hit the ground running, if you will, post-November, God willing. 2 years in Washington was about enough for me, and you know, I'm certainly not enamored of Washington. Moved back home to Indiana. Had spent years away from family and friends. So in 2003, moved back here. Got a job as a management consultant soon thereafter with a company here in Indiana, Crowe Chizik & Company. My job was to try and redesign business processes. Not real exciting stuff, but it got me thinking a lot about how workers, oftentimes government workers, are trapped in a system with inefficiencies, with all sorts of administrative challenges, and these are good people just trapped in a very complex system. So I get a little more sensitive to those realities as a management consultant. And at night, I went to law school. Now the most important thing I got out of law school was not a law degree, although I did earn one. It was my wife Jenny. I met her in the course of law school. She had been practicing law in Paoli, where she grew up, for a number of years. And you know, Jenny and I subsequently got married. We had 4 kids, and we actually work together now in Paoli. We live in Bloomington. You don't find a lot of Republicans in Bloomington. But under these economic conditions and with this policy agenda, we're starting to see a lot more. So that has been encouraging. My life is good. I have a satisfying work, satisfying job. Don't make tons of money, but make enough to be able to feed my family and have some fun now and then. My wife is wonderful. She's my best friend. I've got 4 kids that I'm just crazy about. 4 kids age 4 and under, incidentally. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend mixing those two things. Congressional campaign, 4 kids 4 and under, but my wife has stepped up really here. So why would I get involved in a major political campaign with all these things going on in my life and with plenty to fall back on, frankly? Because I'm under no illusions. Should we win this race, the work just begins. And my life arguably will in so many ways not be as good as if I had stayed here and kind of went through the motions. But I feel called to duty right now. I feel called to duty. My background lends itself, I believe, to taking this step. I feel like the people of Southern Indiana aren't being well served by their current leadership. And I guess if I'm just going to put it in plain terms, I want to be part of the solution. And this is my way of being part